There is also two kinds of English language proficiency. How many of you have heard about the BICS and CALP? Anyone has heard about those two kinds of proficiencies? BICS is the basic interpersonal communication. That's the social English that we use in general settings. When you talk to friends, when you are talking to peers, or when you are talking to outside in the general society, that's the conversational English. And research says that students can learn that conversational English pretty fast, between 5 to 7 months, depending on the surroundings that they are in. If they are surrounded by people who do speak English, they will pick up that language pretty quickly. So they will be able to speak in English pretty fluently. But then the proficiency that is required for academic success in school is called as CALP, that is the cognitive academic language proficiency. And that language proficiency takes up to 5 to 7 years depending on all the other factors that are impacting their language learning. So the major part of confusion for most teachers is that if a child is speaking English, because they do pick up that English pretty quickly, if a child is speaking English, why is it that they are not doing well in school? That is a major confusion for most teachers who don't understand the world of the English language learners. But the difference is, you pick up the basic interpersonal communication skills in how much time? About 5 to 7 months you can pick that up. But cognitive academic language proficiency, how much time does it take? 5 to 7 years. Do you see the difference there? So the child speaking English fluently, but they will not be able to participate in academic English very well. So that's the main difference that you have to always consider when you are thinking about the needs of English language learners in your classroom. Okay, the next statement, parents of English language learners should be encouraged to speak and read as much English as possible in the home. Agree or disagree? Again, please talk to someone sitting next to you and does anyone agree with this statement? Yes. Okay. What are your reasons?
I agree because it says as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
They can try to do it. If they can't, it's not going to be detrimental to the child. But they would like to try.
Okay. You think that will help them improve their English?
Yeah.
Is that a good outcome if it helps them improve their English? No, just think about it. Anyone else? Anyone else agrees with this? Yeah?
Well, they only spend so much time in school a day, so they really aren't getting that much exposure to it.
Okay, so you think they do need to speak English at home? Okay? Anyone else? Does anyone disagree with this statement? Again, there are only two choices, agree or disagree. So if you have not agreed to the statement, you have to disagree. And give me your reasons, please.
Well, I think that they should speak English to a certain extent in the home, but also keep the native language so that they can communicate with the parents on the parents' level, because their parents might not understand English as well as their child does, or something like that.
You make an excellent point. That's a very excellent point. What happens when kids do move to the US is they will pick up English eventually, somehow. Even if it takes a longer time, they will pick up English. But what happens in the process if the parents also start speaking to the children in English at home, even if they are not fluent in English, first of all, the kids will pick up grammatically wrong English. And even if they are fluent in English, what will happen to the native language of the child? They will start losing the native language. And this is a personal experience for me. That's why I kind of believe that it is really important for teachers not to insist that their parents of the English language learners in their classroom speak to their kids only in English at home. My son, when we moved from India to the US, he was in 3rd grade. It wasn't that he was not speaking English. He did speak English. He had been instructed in English medium right from childhood. From kindergarten, he had been in an English school. So he knew English, but the problem was with his accent. And even I have an accent. Even now, after living here for about 11 years, I still have an accent. So he had an accent. He was a third grader. He had an accent. So he was put in a English class to learn to speak English better. And the teachers and the aides who provided that services started telling us that we need to speak to him in English. And not knowing any better at that time, I did start speaking to him in English. And my husband and my daughter, who is the older sibling, all of us started speaking to him in English. So can you guess what happened now? He's in college right now. He's a sophomore in college. Yeah.
Probably doesn't remember any of it.
Yes, that's the main issue. He doesn't remember much of the native language. It's okay with our family who has moved here, but grandparents who are back in India, when we go back to visit, it's a big concern that he can't speak to the grandparents. And they feel very bad that they can't communicate with their grandchild. So it is something that you have to be very careful about, not insisting that parents speak only in English at home. Okay, let's start taking a look at the policies in place in Illinois about English language learners. What are some policies in place? Okay, the Illinois policies in place. First thing, let's learn a little bit more about Illinois English language learners in the US. Like Dr. Russell was telling you, it has increased 51% in the recent years. And the number of ELLs in schools in Illinois schools has gone up to 183,522 students. And if you see the progression, every year there seems to be an increase in the number of ELLs in Illinois schools. And most of them are Spanish speakers. 80% of the ELLs in Illinois schools are Spanish speakers. According to the statistical report in 2010, more than 136 languages are spoken by the English language learners in Illinois, and about half of them are enrolled in Cook County. 88 counties in Illinois have ELL, so it is not that only the Chicago counties or the suburbs of Chicago have ELLs. ELLs are spread all across Illinois. 88 counties. I don't know how many counties are actually there in Illinois. Does anyone know? How many counties are there? Education? 100 something. So 88 counties is a pretty big percentage of that. So you can see the age range of the students, ELLs in Illinois schools also. Many of them are in the range of K through third grade. Many of the ELLs are from kindergarten to third grade. Then there are some from preschool. There is some bigger chunk in 4th to 5th grade also. Then 6 to 8 and then 9 to 12. The smallest percentage is in preschool. The federal requirements, these are some of the regulations that are there. We won't go over that right now, but just to point out, ELL is used interchangeably with limited English proficiency, proficient also. So if you hear about ELL or LEP, it means the same thing according to the Illinois regulations. So prescribed ELL screening instruments. These are some of the prescribed instruments. We'll get back to that in a minute. So the first thing to identify an English language learner is when a child comes to register in a school district. When for the first time in any school district in Illinois, they are given what is called as the home language survey. And in the home language survey, they have to identify if the child speaks any language other than English, if the parents speak any language other than English, and if they have any other background. So there are some questions that they have to answer. So if the answer to one of the questions is yes, the student is screened for what is called as the English language proficiency. And screening for English language proficiency has to be done within 30 days of enrollment of a child in the school district. So within 30 days they have to do the screening. And based on the screening, they are given, the services are provided. And kindergartners are screened regardless of whether or not they were identified as ELL in preschool. So these are some of the screening tools that I used. The kindergarten first semester, the tool that is used is called as model, and the domains that are assessed are in the listening and speaking area. So the oral language proficiency score, they need to get at least 4.8 in those areas to be considered English language proficient. So if they get anything less than 4.8, they are considered as English language learners. The kindergarten second semester and first grade first semester is also model. The overall composite proficiency level is 4.8. That means on an average in all the 4 areas, listening, speaking, reading and writing, they need to get an average of at least 4.8, the composite score. And the composite literacy level should be at least 4.2. From first grade onwards to 12th grade, there are different tests for different grade levels, but all those assessments are called as the VAPT, Vida Access Placement Test. It's and they are again tested in all the 4 domains, listening, speaking, reading and writing, and the overall composite proficiency level needs to be 4.8 and composite literacy level needs to be 4.2. So once the school does the screening at the registration time, then depending on the number of students that they are identified as ELLs, the program services are provided. If there are 20 or more students in one attendance center, that means in one school building, in speaking the same language, they have the same language background, 20 or more, then the school is required to provide what is called as a transitional bilingual education program, the TBE program. If there are 19 or fewer ELL students who speak the same language, then they are required to provide what is called as the TPI or transitional program of instruction. Remember, the magic number is what? 20, but 20 of what? 20 of the same language. Only then they are required to provide a transitional bilingual education program. So for the determination of the type of program to be offered in an attendance center, talked about 20 or more K to 12 ELLs of one language group. So it doesn't mean that 20 or more of one grade level. They can be 20 or more of any grade level in one particular school. So starting from kindergarten to 12th grade, if the school is from kindergarten to 12th grade, if there are 20 students in that school from the same language background, they are required to provide what is called as the TBE program. And 20 or more preschool ELLs of one language group, they have to provide the preschool TBE too. Further, after they are assessed and after services are being provided, they still need to be assessed every year to see what their proficiency level is. So all ELLs must be assessed, including those not in the TBE or TPI program, until they demonstrate English language proficiency. Why do you think there will be students who will not be in TBE or TPI program, even after they have been identified as ELLs? Can anyone guess why that would be? If they have been identified as ELLs, wouldn't they be in one of these programs? Why not?
They could speak a different language.
No, even if they are speaking a different language, they still need to be either in a TP. If the number is not 20 for one language group, even if there are 19 or one student of a different language group, they still have to be in some kind of service. as per the law, but sometimes students are not. There is one stipulation of the law there that allows some students not to be in any of those programs. Randy, am I correct in saying that the parent has to agree to it?
Parent has to be notified.
Yeah, if the parent says no, then the child cannot receive those services.
Does not have to receive that.
Yeah, does not have to receive services. So if a child is identified as ELL and if the parent says no, then the child does not have to receive the services. So there could be kids who are considered technically English language learners but are not receiving services because the parents have said no to that. Then assessment is done on every year for ELLs, and that assessment is called as access. And we will stop here about the programs here. So we talked a little bit about the Illinois policies about English language learners. So let's talk a little bit about the levels based on performance definition. What are the different levels of English language proficiency?
Welcome to an introduction to the weighted English language proficiency standards. In this section, you will learn more about how the criteria outlined in the performance definitions define each English language proficiency level. Notice that these definitions are general and should be contextualized in the particular grade level of the student and context in which language is being used. Click on the tabs on the left to learn more about the progression of each of the criteria through the 5 proficiency levels. Students who are at proficiency level 1, or the entering level, will be able to process, understand, or produce language based on the following criteria. The students will be able to create pictorial graphic representation of the language in the content areas. They'll be able to create words, phrases, or chunks of language when presented with one-step commands, directions, WH, choice, or yes-no questions, or statements with sensory or graphic support. They will also be able to produce oral language with phonological, syntactic, or semantic errors that often impede meaning when presented with basic oral commands, direct questions, or simple statements with sensory, graphic, or interactive support. Students at proficiency level 2 will be able to process, understand, or produce language based on the following criteria. They will be able to generate general language related to the content area. They can use phrases or short sentences. And their oral or written language with phonological, syntactical, or semantic errors often impede the meaning of the communication when presented with one to multiple step directions, questions, or a series of statements with sensory, graphic, or interactive support. Students at proficiency level 3 will be able to process, understand, or produce language based on the following criteria. They'll be able to use general or some specific language of the content areas. Their communication will include expanded sentences and oral interaction or written paragraphs. And their oral or written language with phonological, syntactical, and semantic errors that may impede the communication, but retain much of its meaning when presented with oral or written, narrative, or expository descriptions with sensory, graphic, or interactive supports. Students at proficiency level 4 will be able to process, understand, or produce language based on the following criteria. Their communication will include specific and some technical language of the content areas. It will also include a variety of sentence lengths of varying linguistic complexity in extended oral or written discourse, including their stories, essays, or reports. Also, their oral or written language with minimal phonological, syntactical, or semantic errors that do not impede the overall meaning of the communication when presented with oral or written connected discourse with sensory, graphic, or interactive supports. Students at proficiency level 5 will be able to produce, understand, or process language based on the following criteria. They will be able to use specialized or technical language for the content areas. Their communication will include a variety of sentence lengths of varying linguistic complexity in extended oral or written discourse, including their stories, essays, and reports. They will also include oral or written language approaching comparability to that of English proficient peers when presented with grade level materials.
So that's a little bit about the proficiency levels of students of English language learners. You can see they are divided into 6 levels of proficiency. The first 5 levels are the levels that are below the reaching levels. Then based on the proficiency levels, students are placed at different tiers of services that they need to be provided and different tiers in which they will be assessed. So we don't have time to take a look at that, but if you go to the website address that is listed there, you can take a look at that later on. I want you to take a look at the access sample. I gave you this handout, grades 3 to 5 speaking test sample items. So please take a look at that. In this one you will see at each level of proficiency what the child will be able to do. So when this test is being given to determine the level of proficiency, the test giver starts with the level 1 proficiency. If a child is able to answer level 1 proficiency questions, they move on to level 2 proficiency and then they go on to the next level 2. So take a look at what are the differences in level 1 and in level 4 questions. What are the expectations that a child should be able to do at this particular grade level? This is for grades 3 to 5. And tell me what you notice. What do you notice?
The one is a lot like more. The answers are right there, and they're moving to it. And number 4, they have to analyze and explain, use their words to explain.
So there is more explanation involved in level 4 and level 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think this test would be, if you give this test to a native speaker of English, you should try this actually. And I have given the same test to an English language learner and a native speaker. Sometimes native speakers also don't do very well in this. So it is something that you have to think. We are expecting more from our English language learners than our native speakers in our schools. And based on their assessments, we place them for services. It's good in a way, but sometimes you wonder, just because they are considered the English language learner, you expect that they should be able to do more than what a native speaker in the US can do. So sometimes it is not only a question of language, it is a question of thinking skills also, because higher levels of thinking are required at level 5. So that's a sample, and you can go to the VIDA website and find more samples there. Okay, next thing I want you to do is you have a sheet here called the stages of second language acquisition. So please talk to a partner and you have to identify which stage each column represents. The stages are given in the third line on the top, right over the table. Stage 1 is pre-production, stage 2 is early production, stage 3 is speech emergence, stage 4 is intermediate fluency, and stage 5 is advanced fluency. So please take a look at that and identify which column belongs to which stage. Try to come up with that. What do you think the first column is? Stage 3. Okay, please make a note of that and then we will see. Second column? Stage 3. You think second column is stage 3? Okay. Does anyone have a different opinion? Stage 4. Second column is stage 4, you think? Third column? Stage 2. Okay, fourth column? Stage 1, and fifth column? Stage 5. So let's take a look at it and see whether you were right there. There you go. The pre-production is stage, the fourth column would be pre-production. Did you get that right? Then early production is third column. You get that right? Then speech emergence is column 1, and then the intermediate fluency is which column? Column 2, yes, and then advanced fluency is column 5. So that's with the stages of the Now let's move on to the factors that impact academic achievement of English language learners. Can anyone tell me what is the difference between these words? Immigrants, refugees, migrants, ethnic minorities, or sojourners? What do these words mean, and how does that indicate the differences in English language learners? Can anyone guess what are the differences with these words and how that impacts the learning of English language learners? What is the difference between an immigrant and a refugee? Yes, Brian? The reason they moved, yes. So what would be the main difference? What would you expect from a refugee? They were kind of forced to move because of either religious persecution or civil unrest that is going on in their country. So probably they might have come from a country or a place where they haven't had much schooling experience because there is some kind of unrest going on in that country. So if they have not had any schooling experience, can you think of what the impact would be when they come to school here? It would be hard. What would they not know?
Probably basic stuff that you think they should know.
The basic stuff, even the behaviorally, what do you think they would they would struggle with? Sitting still, being in a classroom, so their behavior also gets impacted depending on their school background, what kind of school they come from. So refugees have a very distinct kind of needs that need to be met by teachers. So how do you find out about this kind of background from a child? If you do have an English language learner in your classroom, what would you do to try to find out about what kind of status they have as an English language learner? How would you find out? Somebody can guess, I'm sure. Yes?
Have a meeting at school with
Have a meeting at school. Sometimes the records indicate that. Some records are there, sometimes the records are not there. You don't get any records of this child from before they started in your school. So sometimes you have to depend on the child or the caregivers or somebody else who has come with the child to get more information about the child. So let's talk about, I think migrants, everyone knows what the term migrants indicates. Does everyone know that? Who are the most migrants? What language is spoken by most migrants in the US? Spanish, yes. Most migrants in the US do speak Spanish. So why are they called migrants? Brian? Why are they called migrants? And because they are here only for part of the year. They could be here only for a crop season or for some part of the year. They probably may be going back, or they move from one city to another city depending on where the work takes them. Their families move from one city to another city, or to one rural area to another rural area. So that's what migrants are. What do you think are who do you think are sojourners? I don't know if I'm saying the word correctly, but that's the last word I have out there. How do you pronounce it? I said it right? Thank you. Who are sojourners? Can you try to guess who they would be? Anyone? Well, sojourners are people are those whose residency in the US is temporary. So they are here only for a while, and they probably will be they mostly will move back to their home country pretty soon. They generally embrace the US culture while maintaining their culture of origin, as they know that they will eventually return. In schools, a sojourner ESL is often an exchange student. So a child who has come for an exchange experience here, or a child of a professional who is working temporarily in the US. So sometimes you have visiting professors in the university, sometimes you have people who are doing internships in companies for a while, and then they do plan to go back to their home country. So their family comes with them, and the child will be in this US school for only a short period of time. That short period of time could be 6 months, it could be a couple of years, but they eventually do go back. So those kids also are considered English language learners. So you have to keep thinking about, depending on what they have, where they come from, and what category they come into, their needs would be very different. Then the other factors that impact language learning, the first language factors that do impact language learning is the phonology. Can anyone guess what phonology is? The sound system of a language, yes. The morphology. What is the morphology? how the letters are written and how the words are how the words are broken down to understand the meaning of the words. And then syntax is how the language is used. I mean the grammar and all that comes under the syntax. And style is again the different kinds of writing style that are used in different languages. Sometimes writing style could be as distinct as writing from right to, how is English written? From left to right. But there are other languages which are written from right to left, and there are some languages which are written vertically also. There are some languages which have like one of the Indian languages that I speak, Hindi, in that the vowels are not separate letters. They are symbols that are put over the consonants. You don't have separate letters for the vowels. So they are just symbols that are added to consonants to make words. So different kinds of rules are there in different languages, and that can impact the learning of a child in the school. The age of entry to US schools also impacts their learning. According to research, the best outcome is for a child who is from between the ages of 8 to 12. If they are between the ages of 8 to 12, they will have an easier time learning English than a child who is younger or a child who is older. Can you guess why that would be? Yes?
They already have their native language pretty well known.
Exactly, that's an excellent observation. Before 8, they usually have some level of proficiency in their native language by the time they are 8. So in their home language they have developed some kind of proficiency, and most of them have some kind of schooling background also in their home language. Of course, if they are refugees they might not have that, but most of them do have some kind of schooling, because I think every country in the world does have schools starting before they are 8. In India the kids start school by the time they are 3. Different countries have different age levels, but I think every country in the world does start before the kid is 8. So they do have some kind of schooling experience. So that is considered the best outcome. And then the consistency of home language use also impacts their learning. Home language, when it is used more often at home and it is used regularly in their setting, then they are more apt to learn the English language also. And these are my references. That's the end of the presentation. Most of the stuff that I have used has come from the library. It's a download library, and that's the website address. You have tons of resources there if you go there. And then the Illinois State Board of Education website also has tons of resources. So that is the website where you could get those resources. And thank you for coming to my session.